You're not in control. You think you are, but your habits are making your decisions for you. You reach for your phone before you even think. You eat, scroll, delay, react, and by the time you realize it, the day's already gone. And you didn't live it. You just performed a script you didn't write. Bad habits are not innocent. They're not small. They are slow suicide in disguise. A little lost focus here, a little self-betrayal there. Until your goals are a joke, your willpower is gone, and you're left wondering, why can't I stop? The answer: because you've been taught to fight habits with motivation, shame, and guilt, all of which fail. That's why you're here. Welcome to Victory Stoic, where we don't cope with bad habits. We kill them. Not by willpower alone, but by using the same mental weapons Stoic philosophers used to master themselves under pressure, chaos, and temptation. This is the hidden Stoic hack no one taught you. How to rewire behavior, not with emotion, but with reason. Not by avoiding pain, but by turning discipline into identity. This isn't positive thinking. This is war. A war against the part of you that prefers comfort over freedom, distraction over purpose, and weakness over mastery. And the enemy is inside your routines. Today, we're going to break down the 5 principles Stoics used to override bad habits, step by step, choice by choice, until your behavior finally aligns with your values. Not someday, today. If you're ready to stop being ruled by reflex and start living with precision, like this video. Subscribe to Victory Stoic. Share it with someone drowning in their own patterns. And in the comments, make it official. I don't obey habits. I master them. Let's rewire everything. Starting now. Number 1. Understand that habits are the slaves of the undisciplined mind. Your bad habits aren't accidents. They didn't just happen. You didn't inherit them, and they're not your personality. They are the automatic expressions of undisciplined thought, repetitive behaviors born from unconscious decisions you've made so many times, you forgot they were choices in the first place. Most people think habits are physical: smoking, scrolling, eating, procrastinating. But what the Stoics understood, and what modern science now confirms, is that every habit begins in the mind. Every loop of behavior starts as a pattern of thought that goes unchecked, unchallenged, and unquestioned. Seneca once wrote something most people overlook: "A man is as wretched as he has convinced himself he is." It's a radical line. He's not saying misery is chosen, but he's showing that belief is a silent architect of behavior. And if belief is weak, unclear, or based on emotional impulse, it builds routines that reflect exactly that. Think about it. When you procrastinate, it's not because you're lazy, it's because you've internalized the belief that discomfort should be avoided. When you eat poorly, it's not because you're out of control, it's because you've reinforced the idea that short-term pleasure is more urgent than long-term well-being. These aren't just habits. They're philosophies you're living without knowing it. The Stoics would call this a lack of prosos, the Greek term for attention to the self. Marcus Aurelius emphasized this in his private writings. You must reclaim your ability to observe your own mind, because what the mind repeats without awareness becomes your master. He wasn't talking about deep meditation or therapy. He was talking about the moment-to-moment discipline of catching your own thoughts before they calcify into behavior. To bring this home, meet Daniel, a 33-year-old marketing analyst in Austin. For years, he struggled with binge watching, stress eating, and late-night gaming. Every Monday morning, he felt guilt. Every Friday, the loop reset. When he tried to change, he focused on behavior. He deleted apps, threw out snacks, made promises. Nothing stuck. Then one morning, reading Meditations, he was struck by a single idea. You don't control others. You barely control yourself. So start there. He asked himself a question no one had. What belief is fueling my behavior? He realized his habits weren't about food, or screens, or boredom. They were about escape. He had trained his mind to treat stress as an emergency and pleasure as the solution. His thoughts said, "You've earned this. You need this. You can't handle this." And every time he obeyed, those thoughts got stronger. So he stopped trying to control the habit and started observing the thought behind it. He didn't shame himself. He watched. And every time the urge hit, he wrote down the belief it was built on. Within 2 weeks, he stopped fighting his habits. He started breaking them apart. Not by force, but by attention. That's Stoicism in action. Now let's bring in the science. Charles Duhigg, in The Power of Habit, explains that every habit loop is made of 3 components: cue, routine, and reward. Most people try to change the routine without understanding the cue, or the craving driving the whole system. What Stoicism offers is a deeper level. Instead of just behavioral awareness, it demands philosophical awareness. Not just, what am I doing? But why do I believe this matters? Because here's the truth most people avoid. Bad habits don't just live in your schedule. They live in your worldview. Until you confront that, you're just rearranging symptoms. This is why Marcus Aurelius didn't write about fixing himself. He wrote about observing himself. His morning reflections weren't lists of goals. They were honest reviews of where he let emotion rule over reason. That level of internal rigor is what breaks the cycle. Because as Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And your bad habits? They are attempts to control what you were never meant to. Comfort, certainty, approval, escape. That's why they never satisfy. That's why they always return. Once you understand that every bad habit is a symptom of unexamined thought, you stop fighting the surface and start working at the source. You stop labeling yourself, "I'm addicted to this, I'm just like that," and start taking responsibility. This is a behavior created by a belief I haven't questioned. From here, change becomes possible, not because you've forced it, but because you've earned clarity. So the next time you feel the pull toward the fridge, the feed, the couch, don't judge, don't panic. Just ask, what am I telling myself right now that makes this feel necessary? Write it down. Study it like a Stoic. You're not your habits. You're the one who built them, and that means you can dismantle them too. Because in the Stoic system, a habit is never your identity. It's just a reflection of what your mind has been rehearsing. And you get to rewrite the script, one thought at a time. Let the world chase hacks. You'll chase mastery. Let them numb out. You'll wake up. You'll use reason to reclaim your routines. And when that happens, the habit doesn't break you anymore. You break it. That's step 1. See the habit for what it really is, not a flaw, but a signal. A signal that it's time to start thinking like a Stoic. Number 2, observe without judgment. Study your habits. Like a scientist, not a victim. Most people try to change their habits by attacking themselves. I'm such a failure. I have no discipline. Why do I always do this? And with every self-blaming thought, they tighten the chains they're trying to break. Why? Because guilt is not clarity, shame is not strategy, and emotion, when left unchecked, always clouds perception. The Stoics knew this. They taught that the first step toward transformation is not force, it's observation. Epictetus wrote, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, the moment you react with blame toward yourself or others, you've already surrendered reason. The goal isn't to punish the pattern. The goal is to see it clearly. This is what modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which has deep Stoic roots, calls detached self-monitoring, observing your thoughts and behaviors like data, not identity. You are not your craving, your impulse, or your failure. You are the one noticing it. And when you adopt that posture, you gain the power to change without collapsing into emotion. Imagine Alex, a 29-year-old sales rep in New York. His biggest problem was doom scrolling. He'd tell himself he'd just check the news for 5 minutes, then lose an hour. Every night ended in regret. His first instinct? Beat himself up. I'm addicted. I'm weak. But none of it helped. Then he tried something different. He decided to observe like a scientist. He started writing down what was happening when the urge hit. Time of day, emotional state, physical cues. No judgment, just data. And patterns emerged. The craving always came after high-stress meetings. He wasn't seeking information. He was seeking distraction. Once he saw the pattern clearly, he could replace the behavior, not just suppress it. That's what Stoic observation looks like. You step back. You see your behavior, not as sin, but as signal. Not as character flaw, but as cause and effect. The Stoics practiced this constantly. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations as motivation. He wrote it as self-audit. His tone was never, "Why am I such a failure?" It was, "Here is where I lost control. Here is where I can respond better next time." That's not softness. That's self-mastery. So when you find yourself falling into a bad habit, pause. Not to punish, to witness. Say to yourself, "Interesting. I notice I'm reaching for my phone. Curious. I skipped my workout again. What changed?" Let me observe, not react. That shift from emotional identity to rational analysis is everything. It gives you distance. It slows down the pattern. And in that gap, you can choose differently. The goal is not to become robotic. The goal is to train your inner scientist, a part of you that's calm, neutral, focused on truth, not judgment. Over time, this part becomes your ally. It sees your lapses not as defeats, but as information. And information is power. Seneca said, "No man was ever wise by chance." Wisdom is built through conscious pattern recognition, through repeated observation, without ego. So here's your practice. For the next week, every time a bad habit shows up, don't fight it. Don't excuse it. Just log it. Time, trigger, thought, action, outcome. Keep it simple. Keep it sharp. And do not, under any circumstance, label yourself. You are not broken. You are diagnosing the mechanism. Because once you can see the machine, you can reprogram it. Not through willpower alone, but through understanding. And understanding begins with this Stoic truth. You don't change what you hate. You change what you study. No shame, no story, just facts, just clarity, just control. That's how the Stoic breaks the cycle. Not by emotion, but by awareness. Number 3, embrace imperfection. Because progress is built on stumbles, not perfection. The biggest reason people fail to change their habits isn't because they're lazy, stupid, or weak. It's because they expect perfection from themselves. One mistake, one slip, and they declare defeat. I failed again. I'll never change. What's the point? And so the cycle restarts. Effort, slip, shame, quit. But the Stoics never expected perfection. In fact, they warned against it. Seneca wrote, "Even the wise man stumbles, but unlike the fool, he does not lie there." Stoicism isn't about flawlessness. It's about resilience, about getting back up each time, a little smarter, a little stronger, a little more detached from the illusion that falling means failure. Perfectionism is not a virtue. It's a mental trap. It's the hidden form of pride that says, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. That's not discipline. That's ego. And ego is the enemy of habit change. The Stoic understands, I will fall, but I will use the fall. Let's get specific. You want to quit smoking. You've been smoking a pack a day for years. One morning, you decide to stop cold turkey. You make it 6 hours. Then the cravings hit, the stress builds, and you light one up. The old you says, see, I'm weak. I failed. But the Stoic version of you says, I smoked 1 instead of 5. That's progress. Or maybe your house is a mess. You're overwhelmed. Instead of trying to clean the entire place, you get up and organize just your desk. That's not a half measure. That's a win. One clean desk is one step closer to order. The Stoic doesn't need immediate transformation. He needs movement. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Let your intent be simple." And that simplicity is the key. Make the next right move. Not the perfect one, not the biggest one, just the one that turns chaos into order, even if only slightly. Let me tell you about James, a 45-year-old truck driver from Ohio. James had been trying to change his eating habits for over a decade. Fast food, gas station snacks, soda. His body was wrecked. Every January, he'd go all in. Meal prep, workout plans, motivation posters. By February, burnout and shame. It wasn't until he found a Stoic forum online that something clicked. The comment that changed him was this: "Don't fix your life, fix your next decision." James decided to do one thing: stop drinking soda. Just that. First week, he slipped twice, but instead of quitting, he logged the days he succeeded. Week 3, 0 slips. Then he added one more change: no food after 8 p.m. Again, not perfect, but progress. 8 months later, he had lost 30 pounds, not from discipline alone, but from dropping the illusion that he had to be perfect to improve. Modern psychology supports this. A study published in Journal of Behavioral Medicine found that individuals who embraced a self-compassionate mindset, acknowledging failure without judgment, were significantly more likely to succeed in long-term behavior change than those who responded to slip-ups with guilt or harsh self-criticism. In other words, the people who forgive themselves when they fall are the ones who actually change. Stoicism isn't soft, it's relentless, but it's a quiet, strategic kind of relentlessness. It says, you failed? Good. What did you learn? Get up. Try again. Smarter. That's the game. And don't mistake small steps for weakness. The Stoic sees great strength in small, consistent acts. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." You imagine the journey must be heroic, dramatic, life-changing from day one. But reality says, clean your desk. Say no to 1 cigarette. Choose water over soda. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Win the inch. The mile will come. If you track even one small win each day, just one, you'll start to see the story change. From failure to momentum, from chaos to control. And soon, those tiny wins compound. 1 less cigarette becomes half a pack. A clean desk becomes a clean room. Standing up from your chair becomes a short walk. A walk becomes a run. And it all started because you stopped punishing yourself for being human. Here's a practice. Each night, before bed, write down one imperfect victory. Not the perfect day you wanted, but the real effort you made. That one moment you said no to the old pattern. Over time, that becomes a record of growth, a personal testament to your will. Remember, the Stoic doesn't fear failure. He uses it. He walks through it. And when he falls, he stands taller. Not because he was perfect, but because he kept going. So the next time you slip, don't call it defeat. Call it feedback. Adjust. Breathe. Step forward. Not huge, not loud, just forward. Because no habit breaks all at once, but they all break the same way. One small, stubborn, disciplined act at a time. Let others chase perfection. You chase reality. Let others quit when they fall. You train in the fall. And while they're waiting for the perfect moment, you'll be building a life. Quietly, relentlessly, imperfectly, with power. That's the Stoic way. Number 4. Shift your perspective. Your bad habits are a training ground, not an enemy. You've been told to hate your bad habits, to see them as weakness, to fight them, shame them, beat them into submission. And where has that gotten you? A few days of control, maybe. Then relapse, frustration, the same tired loop, discipline, failure, guilt, over and over again. The Stoics took a different path. They didn't look at weakness with contempt. They looked at it with curiosity and strategy. They understood that the habits you hate are not proof that you're broken. They're proof that you're still becoming. They are not the enemy. They are your training ground. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that includes your impulses, your compulsions, even the way you scroll, snack, delay, or numb. If you can learn to approach those moments, not with judgment, but with awareness, then each one becomes a rep, a chance to grow, not by erasing the habit overnight, but by learning what it's actually trying to say. Most bad habits don't start from evil. They start from exhaustion, stress, pain, loneliness, a need for something your mind or body hasn't had in a while. Rest, connection, comfort. You don't scroll endlessly at night because you're weak. Maybe you just haven't allowed yourself a moment of silence all day. You're not binging food because you lack morals. Maybe you're emotionally starved, and the fridge became your fallback therapist. Your behavior isn't random. It's intelligent. It's trying to solve something. The problem is, the solution became automatic, unconscious, and unchecked. Take Ryan, a 36-year-old warehouse supervisor in Missouri. Every night after his shift, he'd collapse on the couch and lose 2 hours on TikTok. He hated it. He'd berate himself. "You idiot, you just wasted your night again." He tried deleting apps, setting time limits, punishing himself. Nothing changed. Then he tried a Stoic reframe. What am I actually using this for? He realized his legs were aching. He was mentally fried. Social media wasn't just distraction, it was decompression. So instead of fighting the habit like it was a demon, he studied it. And then he adjusted. He started stretching his legs while watching, limited his scrolling to 20 minutes, and replaced the last 10 minutes with journaling. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Because it was built on self-understanding, not self-attack. This is the shift. You don't conquer your habits by hating yourself. You conquer them by listening to what they're trying to fix and what they've been costing you. Then you replace them not with punishment, but with better answers. And that requires compassion. Epictetus said, "Be strict with yourself, but tolerant with others." But many forget the deeper Stoic truth. You are part of that others. Your past self deserves tolerance. Your current struggle deserves patience. Your mistakes are part of the mission, not evidence you should quit. Let's take another example. Emily, a 41-year-old nurse in Portland. She struggled with emotional eating, late-night sweets, takeout on stressful days. Her self-talk? Brutal. You're disgusting. You'll never change. But when she brought Stoicism into her life, something changed. She stopped labeling herself as broken. She started asking, what am I escaping from when I eat like this? The answer: she felt emotionally invisible. She spent all day caring for others, but never expressed her own needs. Food became her only reward. So she made a new rule: not to quit sugar overnight, but to eat it with full awareness. No TV, no phone. Just sit and ask, do I actually need this, or do I need rest? That question alone cut her consumption in half. Not because she fought harder, but because she finally listened. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the kind of inner work Stoicism demands, not brute force, but precise attention to what's actually happening inside you. Modern psychology backs this up. A 2012 study published in Journal of Behavioral Research and Therapy found that people who practiced mindful awareness of their habits without judgment were significantly more likely to break compulsive loops than those who used willpower alone. In other words, shame fuels repetition. Awareness fuels change. Your bad habit isn't just a problem. It's feedback, a signal, a mirror. It's telling you something needs care here. And your job, as a rational being, is not to destroy that signal, but to interpret it and respond with better answers. Does that mean you let yourself off the hook completely? Of course not. Stoicism is about discipline, but it's disciplined compassion, the kind that says, I see my weakness, but I don't let it define me. I allow small indulgences when they serve my recovery, not when they sabotage my focus. I will not pretend to be perfect, but I will refuse to stop improving. Some nights you're going to scroll. Some days you're going to overeat, skip workouts, procrastinate. That doesn't make you broken. That makes you human. What makes you stoic is what you do next. You breathe, you notice, you study, you adjust, you continue. So tonight, if you find yourself slipping into a pattern you promised to break, don't explode with guilt. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to soothe? Is there a better way to care for myself right now? How can I use this moment, not repeat it blindly? Maybe you let yourself scroll for 10 minutes because your legs ache after 10 hours standing. That's okay. You're not falling. You're adapting. You're replacing judgment with self-respect. And that respect, practiced over time, becomes discipline rooted in love, not fear. Because in the end, the Stoic doesn't crush his impulses. He retrains them. He reshapes his habits by reshaping how he sees them, not as shameful enemies, but as training weights for the will, not to be despised, but to be used. And that changes everything. Number 5. Pause before you act. The one breath that can break the pattern. Most bad habits don't feel like decisions. They feel automatic. You don't think, you react. Your hand reaches for the cigarette before your mind catches up. You open the food delivery app before your stomach has even spoken. You scroll, click, consume, on instinct. That's exactly what the Stoics warned us about. Epictetus said, "Don't let the force of impression carry you away. Say to it, wait, let me see what you are and what you represent. Let me try you." In other words, don't move, don't speak, don't act. until you've examined the urge. That pause, 1 second, 1 breath, is the moment where you reclaim control. This isn't dramatic, it's deceptively small. But the Stoics knew. Everything begins in the mind, and the mind can only lead when it isn't rushing. Imagine this. You're standing in the kitchen, reaching for a cigarette. Your body's already halfway through the motion. But instead of finishing the movement, you stop. Just 1 second. You breathe. You say, "Do I want this? Or do I want what I think it will fix?" That's not weakness. That's strategy. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this, you have the power to revoke at any moment." Or picture this. You're sitting in front of your phone, finger hovering over the food delivery app. You're about to order 3 double-stacked bacon cheeseburgers for yourself, alone, late at night. Pause, 1 breath, and ask, do I still want to eat the amount of food designed to fill up 2 full-grown men who weigh exactly what I do? Sounds ridiculous, right? Because it is. And that moment of clarity only comes when you stop the loop just long enough to see it. This pause doesn't mean denying yourself forever. It means choosing instead of reacting. Even if you still go through with it, you've broken the unconscious momentum. And if you break it once, you can break it again. That's how habits lose their grip. Not through giant acts of force, but through thousands of quiet interruptions. Let's take Anna, a 31-year-old interior designer in Chicago. Her vice was late-night sugar, cookies, cereal, ice cream. She tried rules. She tried affirmations. Nothing worked. Then her therapist, who happened to be a Stoicism fan, asked her to do one thing. Next time the urge hits, just put your hand on the fridge door and wait 10 seconds. Nothing else. Just wait. That was it. 10 seconds. Sometimes she still opened it, sometimes not. But that pause, simple, quiet, made it hers again. Not a reflex, a decision. This is the Stoic hack. Before the scroll, before the binge, before the smoke, before the snap. Pause. 1 breath, 1 question. That's all it takes to regain sovereignty. Modern neuroscience backs this up. The concept is called response inhibition, and it's directly linked to prefrontal cortex activity, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought. Research from the University of Toronto found that even a 2-second pause before reacting drastically increases your ability to choose a non-habitual response. You're literally rewiring your brain's default. The more you interrupt the loop, the weaker the loop becomes. And here's the key. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need a grand plan. You don't need to want it enough. You just need to do one thing. Slow down the reflex. Even if you fail and still follow the urge, the pause counts. The pause is progress, because the pause is presence, and presence is the root of all self-control. Epictetus again. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about those things. The judgment happens after the impulse, unless you interrupt it. That's your window. That's the break in the chain. So here's your rule. When the craving hits, don't fight it. Don't shame it. Just pause. 1 deep breath. 1 clear question. Do I want this, or do I just want escape? Let that land. Let it sting a little. Let it remind you that you're not at war with yourself. You're training yourself. Slowly, steadily, repeatedly. Some days you'll pause and still go through with it. Fine. But other days, you'll pause and walk away, or choose less, or delay, or substitute. And those days will begin to multiply. Because you're not just building a habit, you're building a response. A split-second muscle that says, I don't act blindly anymore. I choose how I move. And once that muscle grows, you are no longer owned by the habit. You own it. So tomorrow, when the urge hits, pause, breathe, ask, decide, and remember. Mastery doesn't come from force. It comes from the space you give yourself, between the impulse and the action. That's where freedom lives. That's where the Stoic trains. Closing colon. So here's your move. Stop feeding habits that weaken you. Choose the quiet win. Choose the sharpened mind. Choose simplicity that builds strength. If this message hit you where it needed to, like the video, share it, and subscribe to Victory Stoic. This channel isn't about hype. It's about reclaiming your mind, one clear decision at a time. And in the comments, declare it loud. I choose simplicity. I build strength. Let us know how you're using this in your life. Every step counts. Every choice matters. Thank you for watching. Stay focused, stay intentional, and remember, you don't need more. You need less of what weakens you.